It's 7 o'clock and we'll call the City Council meeting to order. Please join me in saluting the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. What's going on here? Stand up on the floor.
Yeah. Having problems with my chair here. Are there any additions to the agenda from anybody? Nope. Any declarations of ex parte conflict, contacts of bias, etc.? Nope. I should start off by saying that I'm filling in for the mayor tonight who's excused. Everyone is in attendance that needs to be in attendance, except for Councilor Conquest, which hopefully he'll join us soon. And with that, we'll go to presentations or comments from the public. Nothing? Chief, I think you're next up. Swearing in of new police reserve by Chief.
Mayor and Council, I'm very pleased to be able to swear in a new reserve officer with us tonight. His name is Brandon Smith. He comes with a background in law enforcement. He worked for over on the east side of the mountains, Crook County, and then after that, he worked for Woodburn Police Department for several years, and he's now self-employed, running his own business, but missed it and wanted to come back and reserve with us. So he's here tonight with his wife, Talina, and their kids. And Morgan, his son, happens to be one of our cadets as well. So if you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brandon Smith,
I, Brandon Smith,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
abide by the law enforcement code of ethics,
abide by the law enforcement code of ethics,
the canons of the police ethics,
the canons of the police ethics,
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the Stayton Police Department,
of the Stayton Police Department,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of a reserve police officer
the duties of a reserve police officer
for the city of Stayton
for the city of Stayton
during my continuance therein.
during my continuance therein.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to the consent agenda. What was the council wish to do with the consent agenda?
I move we accept it.
For a second?
Second.
Motion to second to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries 5-0. That brings us to our first unfinished business item of the night, which is ordinance number 1009, vacation of alleyway. And we'll start with the staff report from Mr. Fleischman.
Great, thank you. Members of the council, before you is an ordinance to vacate a portion of an alleyway. You may recall that in early August, you held a public hearing on the alley. There was only testimony from the petitioner in the case, but it was pointed out that there was one property owner adjacent to the alley who had not signed consent for the alley to be vacated, and at that time you closed the public hearing but kept the record open for the submission of additional written testimony in case the applicant was able to get that signature. That signature was not received, has not been received as of this point in time. So the draft ordinance that is in front of you vacates only the north 150 feet of the alley and retains the south 50 feet as public alleyway. The staff's recommendation is to vacate the alley and to enact ordinance 1009 as presented to you. I'll answer any questions you have.
Thanks, Dan. Is there any council discussion? Okay. I'll wait for the council to offer a motion.
I move we accept 1009 as set forth by Dan with the 50 feet held for the SCTV or SDCC.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and second to approve ordinance number 1009, vacation of the alleyway. Any further discussion? Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4 to, is that a yes or no?
That's a no.
Motion carries 4 to 1. That leads us to the next item, which is second consideration of ordinance number 1010, amending land use code regarding accessory dwelling units in residential zoning districts. Again, we go to Mr. Fleischman for the staff
Right.
report.
And, okay, so before you is ordinance 1010, which is an amendment to the Land Use and Development Code that would permit accessory dwelling units in the low-density and medium-density residential zone. The council held a public hearing on these code amendments at your August 22nd meeting. There was no testimony from anybody presented at that public hearing. The ordinance was voted on at that time with a 3-to-1 vote, which necessitated it returning to the council for a second consideration, and therefore is before you this evening for that consideration. I guess mostly for the sake of the audience, I'll hit on the highlights of what's in the proposed amendment, and that is, as I said, it would allow the owners of detached single-family homes to create an accessory dwelling unit. That could be dividing the home in addition to the house, or as a separate building to be placed on the lot. There is the requirement that at least one of the units be owner-occupied, that it be no small, the accessory unit may not be any smaller than 250 square feet or larger than 800 square feet. And there needs to be at least one off-street parking space provided for the accessory unit. And all other structural, electrical, plumbing, life safety codes, et cetera, need to be followed. So that's pretty much the highlights of the proposed amendment. While this is an amendment that was initiated by the Planning Commission as a result of discussions this summer, while the city has been deliberating on this issue, the legislature passed a law that the governor signed at the end of the session, which actually requires the city to do this. We can have our own standards, but effective next July, state statute will require that the city permit accessory dwelling units wherever detached single-family homes are permitted.
Thank you. Any questions? What would the council like to do?
I move we accept the amendment as presented and as is part of state law.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 1010, amending land use code regarding accessory dwelling units in residential zoning districts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, sign same. Motion carries 5-0. Brings us to the third item of the night. Second consideration of ordinance number 1011, amending Stayton Municipal Code 5.20 relating to solicitors. And we'll start with the staff report from Chief.
Mayor and council, I bring back to you for second consideration ordinance number 1011, and it's to amend State Municipal Code 5.20 relating to solicitors. As I stated at the last council meeting, this amendment to the code adds some things to help the city enforce solicitor issues, and things like setting the time frame that they can solicit door to door. It makes it so that the resident can put a sticker on their door that can be enforced, telling people that they do not want solicitors at their home. It makes it so that they have to give a receipt for anything over $5, plus several other items as well.
Mark?
Well, I'm just going to move, because I have no discussion.
Okay, is there any discussion by anybody else? Okay,
I move we accept as written.
there's been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to pass the second consideration of ordinance number 1011, amending State Municipal Code 5.20 relating to solicitors. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Go ahead.
Well, the
Mark.
only discussion is some cities like Lake Oswego have signs that are available for purchase for cost at City Hall. It'd be great if we had that.
We actually have that set up to be in place.
Awesome, thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor of the ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Same opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. That leads us to new business and the community grants. Mr. Campbell?
Thank you, Councilor. I'm actually going to recuse myself from this discussion. I have a potential conflict of interest with one of the applicants. My wife is on the board of the PTC, so I'm going to turn this over to Alyssa.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as of July 31st, our application for the community grants closed. As of the close of day on the 31st, we received 5 applications that totaled $3,955. And the next day, on August 1st, we received an additional grant in the total of $1,000 from the elementary PTC. The annual budget for the community grant funds is $5,000, so the initial grant requests are within that at $3,955, and with the $1,000 additional, you would still be within your budget. So we leave it to you to decide how you want to move forward.
Thanks. I'll leave it up to council deliberation.
So all of these requests fall within the money that we have to give out, right?
Right.
Yes,
Right. So I just say that we say yes to all of them.
I'll second that.
So a motion and a second. Any further? I don't know.
Am I allowed?
To
As an
vote?
employee?
Yes.
As an employee, though? Okay.
Yeah, you're not. Okay.
I'd say yes.
So there's been a motion and a second to basically award the grants as submitted, or yes, submitted in the packet. Any further discussion? All those in favor of it? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Leads us to the next item on the agenda, which is Resolution 967, declaring a portion of West High Street abandoned. And that goes back to Mr. Fleischman again.
Great, thank you. I guess I'm going to start my presentation with a little bit of a history lesson. Going back to 1892, when Ottomer Ludic filed a plat for the Ottomer Ludic addition to the city of Stayton, creating a number of streets. One of the streets that was created was West High Street, running from North First Avenue to a point about 50 feet west of what the plat called C Street, but we now call North Cherry Avenue. About 20 years later, the city of Stayton, or town of Stayton actually at that time, received a quitclaim deed from Mr. S.H. and Mrs. P.J. Burson for an additional 424 feet extending West High Street to the west to what is now North Evergreen Avenue. That deed said, or contained a clause that said that the premises that was transferred in that deed shall be used for street purposes only, and if abandoned for street purposes, shall revert back to the Bursons. Most of the street has not been, was never constructed. It is today 24-inch diameter Douglas fir trees. It has been used as lawn, etc. But it is shown on the county tax maps as public right-of-way. And to resolve this issue, on the way it was suggested to resolve this issue from the city attorney was to place before you this resolution declaring that the portion of West High Street that is not developed for street purposes has been abandoned for street purposes, and the logical conclusion would be therefore has reverted back to the Bursons or their heirs and assigns. The resolution does not state who owns the land. It merely is a statement that the city has abandoned the portion of it that was not used for street purposes. And we'll leave it to the neighboring property owners to figure out who owns what. So you've got...
Conjuring the Bursons.
Right, yes. You've got in your packet a portion of the original plat, a number of surveys that have been done over the years that show the street right-of-way, that show the portions of the street not used for street purposes, et cetera. And you also have a letter that I found in the files from about, I think it was about 15 years ago, when there was a partitioning nearby, asserting the claim that the land shown as West High Street was owned by Clarence Adams, who has since passed away just the past year or so. And that's part of what has raised this at this point in time, to put it before you.
Thank you. Any questions? Dan?
I have a question.
Counselor?
Why should we do this? I don't see the purpose in doing it.
The purpose of doing it is to clarify that this right-of-way has been abandoned, and to get, in my mind, once this resolution is, if this resolution is adopted by the council, then we can take it to the county tax map people and get that portion of West High Street removed from the tax maps.
So if 3 years from now we decide we want to put a street there, do we have to buy the land? Is that what it is?
We would, yes, we would need to obtain the land.
Right. Which we actually have right now.
Well, we don't, because the deed said if it was abandoned for street purposes, it reverts back, and it was never built for street purposes.
Dan,
But that doesn't mean that we might not build it for street purposes, right?
Dan, does this remove the city from responsibility and legal ownership of that land? So if something were to happen on that land, we're no longer liable?
Kind of like vacating all of the alleyways that we might have been able to use for a trail system? I just don't agree with us removing.
I'm asking Dan a quick question. Dan, if this were to be reverted to the landowners, does that remove the city's legal liability as much as it can from that small portion of land?
The opinion of staff and the opinion of the city attorney is that we do not, it already reverted.
Okay.
This is merely a resolution to clarify that, because the street
It's never in use.
was
24 inch
never
Douglas fir.
used for street purposes, and the deed from 104 years ago said that if we don't use it for street purposes, it shall revert. So this is not vacating a street right-of-way as you did for the alley, but this is just stating that that portion of West High Street has been abandoned.
So was there a timeline in the 100-and-some-year-old letter that said that if you don't use it for a street within this period of time, it reverts back?
No, there was no time
Okay.
frame.
So,
There's likely case law.
again.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I should
Counselor.
disclose that the letter from Mr. Tabor, he wrote that in 2002 at the time that he and I were at the same law firm, but I don't think it affects my
Thank you.
judgment, so I'll still vote.
Thank you. Anything else? What would the council like to do?
Call the question. Vote on the abandonment of
Correct.
High Street, the vacation of High Street.
That's your motion?
I move that we vacate High Street
Okay.
as
Has
per
there been
the
a
staff
motion? Is there a
recommendation.
It's not a vacation, though.
Or whatever.
Accept the amendment.
Accept the staff recommendation regarding High Street, the portion of High Street, as outlined to you in what we were presented tonight.
So you want to, the motion is to approve resolution as presented, 967, correct?
Yes.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve resolution 967 as submitted. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1. That leaves us with another chance for presentations or comments from the public. If there's not any, that goes to business from the city administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing this evening.
Business from the mayor, he's not here. I do want to say one thing, though. I was remiss at the beginning of the meeting to acknowledge the absence of David Roten, our city attorney. Sadly, David lost his battle with cancer a couple weeks ago. So just want to acknowledge that and say we'll miss David being in the chamber as well as being an advisor to the council. Thank you. Anything from the council? Nope. And then that's the case, the city council meeting is adjourned.